And we're live. Good morning to you, Mr. Burgio.
Good morning. Real estate agents wearing no socks. That's what the morning show is about this morning. Where have they gone? What are they doing?
Welcome. Where have they gone? The fancy pants real estate agents aren't around anymore. What happened?
Yeah, with Michael Burgio and industry leader Lee Woodward joining the show this morning. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, what a pleasure. What a pleasure to have you.
Mark, so no socks. Who are they? What are they doing? What's your thoughts?
You know what, guys, on a serious note, we wanted to talk about the industry in the last 6 weeks through COVID, 8 weeks through COVID, how the industry itself has gone. And I do get a lot of questions and when clients ask us questions, the number one thing that they're interested in is property prices and property. But the number two thing they're also interested in is how is the industry going? How are the, people's mind space and stuff going out there? And bringing someone like yourself, Lee, on is great because you've got a really good barometer. I know last night when I spoke with you, Lee, first question that I asked was, how is the industry going? And you were saying that it seems synonymous that the numbers are peeled back a certain level, and this is the level that we all agree to, and this is what's happening with volume, and agents are leaving the industry, not a lot of agents coming into the industry. But let me throw it over to you, Lee Woodward. How is the real estate industry going through COVID? What happened to it?
The real estate industry has been impacted enormously. But there's a couple of different types of agents. There's the career agent, and the career agent, this is their profession, their career, it's what they do. They passionately train all the time, and this is their profession. Then there was a lot of people that thought real estate would be an easy job, and I'd be really good with houses, and I'll give this a run. And I think anyone in life who chops and changes their job all the time, they're never really there long enough to experience were they good at it or not? Would they succeed or not? They're moving on before the true test of time kicks in. But in my space, I'm quite protected in the way I do work with career agents, people that train consistently, listen to podcasts and videos every day, and they can't run. This is their profession. And although their income's down, that person then doesn't think, oh, well, stuff it, I'll go and do what I did. I'll go back to being a plumber or a bricklayer. I'll just run on to the next thing. So when we have this...
How much is the income down?
In some areas, it's 50%. And that means not that they're not trying hard enough, but with the drop of listings coming into the market or the consumer saying, I'm just going to put it on hold, I'm not sure what's going to happen. A lot of people are down in their numbers enormously.
That's huge.
That's because when you are a commission-only based agent, meaning... when you sell a house as a real estate agent, you wake up unemployed. It's a very different industry to what the consumer thinks. A lot of people look at the real estate industry and think, oh, these guys earn big checks, they earn big money. That is not the case for 80% of the industry or even 90% of the industry. Every day can be a struggle to, yes, you might activate a property to the marketplace. Behind the scenes of that, there's 135 activities to get a property sold. And settlement doesn't take place for a period of time. So you look over a 3-4 month period for the work you do, it's very different to being paid by the hour.
And how much on average the 80% of the agents make? And how much of a haircut have they taken through COVID?
Well, most real estate agents, and let's be clear on this, because when I announce figures, people go, but I thought. You might be talking about the top 5 or 10% there. When we look at the industry as a whole, the normal mums and dads who work in the Australian real estate industry serving people for property and shelter, that income's between about 70 and 90,000 in the good part of it, but for most it's about 50 to 60. It is not the announced incomes you hear earning of the top performing real estate professionals who may be running a team of 4 or 5 people. They're very different numbers to what the average real estate agent is earning on a normal living in real estate.
And Lee, would you agree? I believe that an agent in that bracket earning, say, 60 to 80 grand a year, they're generally doing very similar hours to the agents earning $500,000 a year, as in they're on the phone probably 7 days a week. They're doing long hours. There's obviously sometimes a big difference in the income, but I find a lot of the workload is very similar. So a lot of people out there with that perception that they're earning all this money driving nice cars, a lot of them out there, Lee, could probably earn more money working at Woolworths and do less hours. I find, do you see that as well? Like the people in that lower tier, they're still doing long hours. They're still on the phone all the time and still working 7 days. They may just need a couple of tweaks to take them to that next financial level. But when it comes to the work they're putting in, regardless of it may not be quality or effective, they're generally putting in long hours for very little money.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Michael, because the hours aren't clocked. The hours are, you are dealing with families who need to find a property. And it's nothing for a lady very concerned about, we've sold our house, we don't have a house to go to, I've got to pick my children's schools, our whole world's in a mess right now. So I am ringing you at 10:30 at night, very concerned that I can't find a house. Or you've got an owner ringing you at 10:30 at night saying, I can't sleep at night because the house isn't sold and we need to move on. So when you're dealing in an emotional transaction like real estate, people don't expect you to be like a chemist open between 9 and 5. They expect to talk to you because it's personal to me. And they'll say, look, I'm so sorry to ring you at 11 o'clock at night. But, and every other profession doesn't facilitate or is expected to facilitate calls of that manner. Maybe if you're an emergency service, yes. But people think real estate agents are just that. I can call you at any time 24/7 because you're a real estate agent and it's about my personal family. Now, to the agents, they take that on board. You know, that's part of the gig. It's what I do. But no one's clocking the hours. It's not that you can clock the hours. Sales is one of those professions that it can be one of the highest paid professions in the world and one of the lowest paid professions in the world at the same time, because you're judged upon performance. It's either sold or it's not. You either got one over the line or you didn't. And it's very easy to work a 60, 70-hour week in real estate and get paid nothing. That is a common part of it. And then in 1 week, you might have 4 or 5 go and people go, oh, you've had a good week. Yeah, after 2 months of nothingness, it's sort of come together. But because we're seen as that exchange of contract commission settlement payment, and there's a lot of hours in between there where it's very easy to be distracted, busy, and not earning the income you deserve for the time you're putting in.
So what do you think?
Lee, what are you finding? You said volumes are back for real estate transactions for a lot of people of 50%. What are these agents doing that have peeled back 50%? Are they sort of hoping for the rain to come? Are they getting out of the business? What's the trend?
It's a great question. A lot of the, I'm going to use the term leverage agents or supporting agents, they've been impacted the most. They've been let go because, you know, the lead agent doesn't have the money to pay for the salary of the person who's waiting for it all to kick back in. So in some instances,
just to clear that up, that's like an agent that's doing good volume. He's got, you know, 2 or 3 assistants. One does, you know, maybe buyer calls. One does sort of admin. So those people have been affected, you're saying?
They have. But even with that, Mark, hence the term leverage agent, these guys were doing everything: listing, selling, negotiating on behalf of the lead agent, because they're working as a unit. And there's something brilliantly powerful about that. But as the numbers dropped, or the opportunities of conversions have dropped, that's put pressure on the unit. But in the same time, we've seen some agents who run, let's call it a different book of business, where, and to me, a different book of business is all the properties I'm selling are clients I've represented 4 or 5 times before. And they decided just to flick it, get rid of it. There's a lot of great transactions going on if the client trust controls there and it's been a long-term relationship. But as for never met you before, think about putting my property on the market, that's what's missing from our marketplace right now.
And they're all wearing socks as well. They're all wearing socks, Michael. Who are you shouting out to? Sorry.
Oh, we got lots on. And Angelo, Chris Gilmore, Amy Young, Paul, Luke Maroney, Christopher Scott, Andrew Cole, Admiral, Sabine, lots of viewers on this morning. Really great to have you on. Any questions you have, shout it out, put them in there. We'll do our best to answer them. Anything for me, Lee, we're here. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, please share it as well. So what we say, Mark, about the no socks agents?
Yeah, they're all wearing socks.
Yeah.
all the fanciness left, like all the big fat lunches and fancy suits, and everyone's conservative now.
Yeah. So what do you think a lot of now, Lee, where do you see the next sort of year of real estate with what we've had in the last sort of 3 weeks? Do you think it's going to be a bit of an old school, just head down, bum up? I think, like in our view, Mark and I's mindset, what we're trying to do is double the output, even though we're going to earn half the money over the next period, but it's just head down, bum up.
Yeah, I've got some strong views on this, and reflecting on what both of you just said there. When we look at let's call it a superficial agent that wants to look the part, drive that car, and have this perception of being a real estate agent, that's not what you call a working agent. A working agent is trying to find family homes. It's trying to get the best price for the owner who's in need of the greatest profitable sale they can in a cash-free asset. And I think those agents have real relationships. They're not fake relationships. They represent families of the community, and they care about that outcome. So that's what I call a career agent. This is my profession. This is what I do. Michael, to answer your question, right now is a time of communication. And in a fast market and a lot of deals going on, the first thing that people stop doing is communicating. And that's to ring that original landlord or original traditional purchaser who bought the home off you 10 years ago and reach out as an advice line and say, "Hi, Michael, it's Lee from Novak. Just calling to see how you're going. Do you have any questions in these unusual times of real estate? Oh, look, do you think it's going to do this or that?" And just having a chat, which sounds so basic and simple, has been missing in the last 5 years. Agents have ignored the community as the pace of the market was there. I don't need to speak to anyone. I'm flat out. I'm doing really, really well. Whereas now's the time to reach out and make sure your book of business is real. And I think the agents that will do very well, and let's call it the restart, and I love this term, and it needs to be a big part of today's program. In the restart, what will you do differently? What will you do the same? So, and Novak's an interesting agency. You guys are a multimedia layered business. You sell real estate through digital. You inspect real estate through digital. You use time slots off the internet. And I think you restarted before this all even happened. Whereas for an agent who only ever goes and has a cup of tea with the owner, an agent that only ever does private appointments or open houses, I think in the restart, you could find yourself left behind. And the digital agent today is all part of the digital sale. And I'd be learning the digital sale as fast as you can, and that means touchless real estate. So if I was representing a property for sale now in Australia, in London, it gives you the context and pre-frame of what would I do. I won't be going over there to show people through, so how am I handling that? I'll be having to communicate with the owners and the purchasers, so Zoom now kicks in. I'll need to have detailed, brilliant, contextual information, indexed information, so that they can't just pop into my office and grab it. I've got to give everything to the consumer straight away. So when you look at a international sale, what would you do? And then bring that local, it gives you the framework of what a digital agent actually is.
And with that communication, a lot of agents find it hard. They find it easy to give good communication, 20 buyers through phones going off the hook, but a lot of agents find it hard to give that, well, not even bad information, no information. Sorry, Mr. Vendor, we have no update. Sort of like, I think that's we used to call it just eat the frog, eat the bad news and move on. A lot of agents would be sitting there after a private appointment or an open home, no inspections, and instead of just getting on the blower and speaking to the vendor, they don't do anything. So I think that really, you hit the nail on the head there, more communication rather than less communication. People love giving good news because they're like, look how good I am. We got all these people through. But when it's tough and it's bad news, having those hard conversations, agents do struggle there. People struggle there. Just in general, people struggle having the bad conversation or the hard conversation. And I think moving forward is going to be very, very important. So what advice would you give people, agents out there, vendors out there? A lot of vendors watch this. What would you give them advice on taking that, and what can everyone do to move forward? Rosie Sullivan's jumped on, Matt DeCastri, Jeff Luby, some great influences in the real estate industry. Thank you for jumping on. Any questions, type it here.
Hey, I've got a question. Hey, Lee, because you're talking to a lot of the industry at the moment, that's your job. What's the perception of agents the future of the property market. So for buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords that are watching at the moment, and I know we're automatically going to jump to a sales answer on this, but backing that up, if you could give me a rentals answer as well. What's the perception of the agents that all you're talking to is what's going to happen in the property market 6, 18, 36 months down the track?
Well, I think that's a long way out. I'm seeing the difference in feelings, emotion, opinions, and strategy day by day. So 2 weeks ago when I was speaking to agents, it was a very different conversation to everyone who I had online yesterday, who they've improved themselves in a week and another week. And what I mean by that is quite often, just as human beings, not the real estate industry, we are slow to get things activated, implemented, and get things done. As humans, depending on who you are, we are slow to get things done. So I've seen people take steps in the last week that I haven't seen them do in the last 2 years. So don't waste a good crisis to get things accelerated in your thinking that, you know what, I've got to do this now. I won't have a job if I don't learn that. I don't have that option. I need to do it. So there's been some really good positive things where people are forced into action to be far better than they ever were. So I'm excited about that part, Mark. And then I look 12 months down the track, I think we're going to see a far better, more skilled agent representing our community, which is going to give them a more profitable result in the sale of their property. When anything upskills, when anything has a mass improvement, and you look at old school thinking, and there's so many examples in society. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a photo of people smoking on airplanes. That was a normal thing. You sit on an airplane and someone would be putting out a cigarette next to you in the armrest, and people think, oh, that couldn't be. Well, are we now heading into a real estate future that no one gets a physical inspection on the property unless they've done the first inspection digital and they've actually registered their interest and all their details, and then they get to see it? You know, what if it is a far better qualification that you can't just rock through a house whenever you want to rock through it because you're available, yet you haven't committed anything? And, you know, I remember winning a listing once where I said to a consumer, it was a property up in Collaroy Heights, and the lady had a lot of artwork, lovely lady, and they owned a local business as well. So their fear about putting the property on the market was discretion. You know, we couldn't just have an open house situation like that with a home with private and personal expensive things on display. So we won the business by discretion, by saying it's our job to keep people out as well as in, and we have the right to refuse access. I think that is a now moment that unless you register, go through the digital inspection, we get all your terms and conditions right, then we will show you through the owner's home. But what if there's only the final 5 inspections in the future, rather than we've got to get 100 people through it so it looks like we're working, yet some of those people aren't ready to purchase for 12 months. I think we're going to see a compression in who gets to see real estate.
Because I just, like, you know, I know I accept what you're saying, but like with the way we operated in the last 10 or 15 years, it's a big question mark's gone over the top of that. And the biggest distinction, I think, from a consumer is going to be open houses. Were the open houses built for sellers' convenience? Were they built for agents' convenience, or were they built for buyers' convenience? And is that still the same convenience going into the next year ahead? You know, is that, or are we literally going to sort of, we're going to, you know, are open houses ever going to be like back to normal, or we definitely will be back to normal, and everything will be like that whole process for buyers and renters and stuff? Because the renters would have loved this lately. You ring us, make an appointment, you go there, done.
Yeah, I think the time slots and that inspect real estate moment we discussed a couple of weeks ago is fantastic. You wouldn't expect to just turn up to any other. No one just turns up to their lawyer and says, "Can I see through?" So a property deserves the same booking system, and I hope it doesn't go back to just massive open houses and everyone going through. But to answer your question, which was layered, open houses were used as a way of getting early parts of the community interested in real estate. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I had no intention of moving. We saw it was open. We walked through. We fell in love with it. We bought it. There is still a place for that in the off-the-cuff style sale. However, digital has allowed that to be, well, if you want to have a browse, it's available digital now, and you can actually get through it in a very detailed fashion. But I think for the consumer, I'm doing a lot of study right now on timed sales. So it starts and it ends. And that end time, you can make bids on the property all the way through, but you can only make a bid if you're registered to follow it or registered to bid on the property. And using the auction conditions, Private Treaty can now have this method of sale. So I could put a property live now, I'm going to call it a coming soon campaign, and anyone can bid on the property, and if the bid's good enough, the owner's going to accept it. But the general public isn't really seeing that because they wouldn't register. But if we click on that property, we've had a couple in the last couple of weeks there where 80 people have registered to follow the home. And you think, wow, there's 80 people genuinely interested in real estate. They've submitted their details. Whereas at an open, we've had people in the past say, I don't even want to give you my details yet. I want to walk through somebody else's home. That's not right.
So you'd have all the data. What days on market selling a property since COVID's been here? How has that changed? So days on market is how from the first day a property is on the market to when the property sells. If you're looking at that data at the moment, what does that come in at, Lee?
Dramatic change, state by state, suburb by suburb. Anything in a good investment area is actually reduced in time. But the reduction's been, if we don't buy now, we're going to miss out. And the owner's thinking, if I don't flick it now, I could be around for a while. So it brought a lot of truth into the marketplace of, well, let's look at the golden rule of real estate. The longer your property is on the market, the less the purchasing community expect to pay. So an owner right now would definitely want to sell. They wouldn't be testing the market. Let's just see what happens. You are real right now. And I think there's a beautiful truth in the marketplace that, yes, we might have less buyers in the marketplace, or do we? Do we have the real buyers in the marketplace and we don't have the crowd that floats around just checking out real estate? Now, the crowd is checking out real estate is very important because they become that real purchaser one day.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Very brilliant sales going on right now with genuine people who genuinely have a need. And this is one disappointment I had with all the rules. I had to stand in the Bunnings queue the other day to get in the Bunnings, and that's seen as essential. Yet in Victoria, a mum and dad can't go through a house because you're not allowed to do a physical inspection, but shelter wasn't viewed as essential. I don't get that. If you've got nowhere to live as a mum and dad, that is essential. Shelter is primary. Over to you, Mr. Burgio.
I was sort of back to that question previously about those tough conversations, advice to agents on doing it, because when we sort of said everyone's happy to have the good conversation, but right now, what's the most important thing for agent communication with their vendors?
I think it's about timing. Have you definitely made the decision to sell the property is a question. And I love that question. It's one of my favorite questions because questions get answers, statements get judged. And there's a lot of statements and a lot of noise out there right now. And Mark, you and I have seen this from the tenants coming in saying, I'm entitled to this and that, and yet they have no drop in income whatsoever. They have not been affected, but with all the noise, they feel they could take advantage of a situation that is not true. And our job as a real estate agent is to protect the asset. And protecting the asset is in price, it's in rent, it's making sure the landlord does have a future. They've got bills to pay as well. But this noise that comes out of our massive media right now can give people fake rights of what they feel they can get away with, yet they're not even affected. So I think critical conversations are, could you run that by me again? And then for an owner, have you definitely made the decision to sell? If you have, if I get an opportunity with the buyer, and I may have one to work with, we'll need to take that very seriously, that this is the chance or remove the property. So I think the reality of it is the veil's been lifted. No glossy marketing or Hollywood's going to get us through this. If I get you a price today that you're happy with, what would that be? And if that's not there, what's the next level of that? And there's a beautiful reality going on. It's the truth of the real estate market is here right now.
I love that word.
Which one?
Truth.
Truth.
I think it's brilliant. I think this quarter has been the quarter of truth.
Yeah.
Like it really, really has been, guys. And the no socks in some nation and the takeaways from today to wrap it up. What happened to the agents with no socks?
I don't work with those. I miss those. They're not in my training society or community.
Yeah, they've had to put their socks up, pull them up, get down and dirty, and get on the phone and see how they can help people and deliver the truth.
Yeah, Amy was also saying that the Louis Vuitton belts were gone as well.
Matthew says, excellent point. Yes, in Canberra, some of our properties only stay on the market for less than 2 weeks if they are priced correctly. Truth in market prices from Luke Baroni, ? So the truth would be where it sits in today's market. Not because I find the biggest obstacle where some agents are struggling. They've listed a property in February. Market's gangbusters. They've said it's 700, but with the right marketing plan, we could create competition. Lots of buyers out there. We're getting 10 through the open home. We could get 750. Let's go. COVID's come along. That property is now a 650 property, but they haven't had that truthful conversation with the owner and said, do you still need to sell? Because it's not a 750 anymore or a 650. And I think that's where a lot of people are coming undone.
Yeah, so the whole theme, and I'll give it a different perspective, real estate in the transaction, no matter which one it is about getting to the truth. From the vendor's perspective, at what point will you release the asset? And from the purchaser's perspective, at what point will you engage in the asset? So we've got perceptions, but what is the truth? That's that partnership where we meet in the middle, and the sale price is. And that could be very different to what everyone thought it would be when they first started, because we've got old thinking when we start. We don't have modern thinking. But then suddenly we have, well, you imagine if you said right now, property's on the market for 2 weeks only. You've got a 2-week window of opportunity and it's going to be sold or not. What would you pay? And the owner's then saying, well, the only offer was, will I release it for that or not? Versus, I thought it was worth. You've got to remove that thinking to what's on the table. We're getting to the truth. Is it a yes or is it a no? And if it's a no, we accept your decision. If it's a yes, congratulations, you can move on with your plans. But we've now got to the buyer engagement level, the point where the owner will release it. Getting to the truth is what this market's about.
Yeah, and more important than ever for the agent to have that conversation with the owner and find out where they're going, because where their next move is can be very, very important in getting the result or a sale. Because in this type of market, you got to look at the bigger picture, especially when people may be selling for less, but if you know what they're buying, they could be buying for less as well, and their net position is a lot better. So more important than agents just not even worrying about what else is going on with the client. Talk to them, communicate, get the full picture, and find out what is the best solution and what they really want. Anything else anyone wants to add for this morning? Mark?
Love it.
One great question to ask in a listing interview right now. So when we talk about the listing presentation, it's actually a listing conversation where we interview the owner. And I think a couple of key questions is, why have you chosen now to sell the property? I think that's a fair question.
Yes.
Why have you chosen now to sell the property? And you'll get the answer to that. If the property doesn't sell, what is your backup plan? Is another question. And then let's talk about how we can strategically move it in the marketplace in these times. But if someone's choosing to sell their property right now, they must have a very good and real reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't. And I think this is a fantastic time to sell your property because you are not up against the mass market of noise of many options. And again, final point, the buyers that are out there right now are brilliant buyers. They have a truth. They really need a property. And there's some great property marriages being happening all over the country with real reasons.
Beautiful. I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, and it's the market of truth. It's COVID has brought out truth.
The truth. Put your socks on, Tony.
Hallelujah.
I'm putting my socks on. All righty, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good Wednesday. Good luck, Lee. Thank you very much for having you on. As
Lee,
always,
thank you
it's a pleasure.
so much, Lee. Thank you.
Great to
Thank
be-
you. Thanks, Michael, as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Michael.
See you guys.